So, hello everyone, and welcome. I'm very honored and grateful to have this opportunity to share my experience and to invite some meditative energy and presence into my life. Uh, to be able to do that, not just concerned with myself or focused on myself, but also focused and concerned on community that's interested in this meditative view, this contemplative inquiry into direct experience at the best of times, and my my ego being out of control at the maybe most of times. This is really nice because I've always liked going to the coffee shop and having the cappuccino and being in the environment, kind of very relaxed and open environment where everyone is sitting and being and maybe doing their work, doing their art, having conversations. And how wonderful, how incredible, interesting it would be to actually then have a position in that environment to share about Buddhism or meditation, to answer questions, to share experience. And somehow my conditions are such that I get to show up and be at this coffee shop right now and to be in that kind of position. And it is a very timeless position to be in as well, because so let's say that you could maybe pick up on the meditative energy here, right? Like you could almost feel like our minds were tuned into the same frequency, like the subtlety of the mind, the subtlety of awareness. So if that, which is not based on like just the audio visual feed, but it's a kind of transmission, right? It's a kind of mind to mind transmission taking place. If that can be experienced for people who are watching this, after now, and what we're getting to is actually going to revoke or kind of make irrelevant this notion of after now. But if they can also tune into that energy and receive that transmission, is that not time travel? Because that subtle movement of the mind, or that clarity, or that sense of, the mind, we go into like different contractions or opening in terms of the mind. Sometimes like just seeing and hearing and breathing and being feels very otherworldly, almost like going into the unknown or being the unknown. So anyways, I'm very grateful to have this opportunity to share. Someone shared this quote. Well, they wrote down a quote that, because I talked a little bit about the meth head acting, or the meth head method acting, maybe we would call it, recently, that I was doing on the live stream and seemed to confuse a lot of people. It's hard to keep up. There's always new people coming in and new people going out. But they said, they quoted me. They said, "I'm trying to make it very clear for people that it is impossible for some appearance to be me. It is impossible for some memory, some idea, some story of you to be you." So that's kind of what we're working on and working through in this kind of this practice and this contemplative gathering, meditative inquiry. Has anyone here been following the March for Peace in America with the Buddhist monks? I have a question. How do we determine a fake smile versus a real smile? I always remember when I was a kid, being forced to smile for pictures, and I never felt like I had much of a good fake smile. But what's a real smile versus a fake smile? What's a fake person versus a real person? What's a bad person versus a good person? So I am not a monk. I'm trying to put myself into the mind of someone who would be watching this or following this that is maybe uninitiated or not enlightened. I was thinking about, what if I am enlightened? What if I am enlightened? What if I have the enlightenment? What if I have the wisdom? What if I know the truth through my own direct experience? Not fully enlightened, but a little bit enlightened. What would that really mean? If I really had the enlightenment, if I've licked the tongue of Buddha, so to speak. Is being enlightened about being out in space? Maybe it has something to do with that. Is it about maybe being at peace without needing to think about this? Or being present, being fully present without needing to have a conscious thought structure about what this is or what's going on? As a happiness, I try to cultivate some happiness because I have a tendency to be quite depressed or kind of neutral. And that happiness is a really good medicine for gladdening the mind and brightening the mind, so that when we come back down to earth and reality, we're not overwhelmed by the immensity of suffering that's there. Thank you, Soy Gamer. That's quite a nice compliment. I probably will sell some courses or do some online, some kind of online meditation retreat, but not now. I have to get past the point where I'm looking for like a lot of people to join. I'm looking for like a lot of numbers and things like that of all these interested people that I, want to listen to my talk and want to join for meditation. I have to get beyond that. That's what I'd be saying too. Meditation for what, bro? Let's just go to the coffee shop and go live. Ah, that's cool. So when we meditate, for the everyday average person, for regular people, meditation is just conscious breathing and relaxing. So it's just like through the conscious, because if you're consciously breathing, you're concentrated and then relaxing. It's not anything more special than that or more spiritual than that. Yeah, she doesn't exist. He doesn't exist either, but I don't want to get into all that again. If they say it exists, okay, it exists. Let it be. If they say I got to clean my room, okay, I got to clean my room. So I can have more space for myself to just be. Yeah, let's start our meditation practice together. Smiling meditation. Maybe you can see if you look at my face, if you look into my eyes, if you can smile together with me, you can feel a little bit of happiness. And you can see the ego kind of comes in and gives a reason for, well, I can't be happy or this isn't quite right. But what's not right about smiling? Smiling is almost like everything's right, everything's okay, everything's fine. I'm currently on coffee, nicotine, and mindfulness and detachment. Tipping is okay. It's all right. In the past, I've told people who are following and supporting me to go and take out loans and buy gold bullion and fly here to Vietnam and hand over the gold bullion to me. But I should probably stop doing that. I think I'm going to stop doing that from now on. Because people can get the wrong idea about it. If that was a dream that I had, I probably would say, I wish it was real. But maybe a bit too challenging. Because some people do really listen to me in terms of what I say that they should do. So as time goes by, I have to take more and more responsibility in myself for what I say and how I act, and not trying to justify it with more words and phrases. And that's not about like my social media career. That's just about my relationships with other people in life as I get more present and I get more engaged in life. So Geo, this is something that we would call childism. So this is prejudice against children, prejudgments against children. It would be like if you It's like when you go to a family gathering and there's an uncle or an aunt and a child and parents, and the uncle or aunt wants a hug from the child, and the child doesn't want a hug, doesn't want to experience any kind of physical contact. And then the child is kind of forced or intimidated or manipulated to, to do that. Or if you make physical contact with a child without consent, even if it's just hugging them or picking them up, you would never do that to an adult. But because it's a child, you can kind of validate that. And what that teaches children from a young age is that they don't have agency over their own bodies. And when we talk about someone being childish in terms of like their mental capacities or their lack of maturity, it's kind of like cherry picking ideas to justify this general prejudgment that we have about children's inadequacies. When actually, just as much as children have inadequacies, they have way more adequacies. Like, for example, children are learning language just by being around people that speak that language without effort. So if someone was a language path, a languageopath, where they could just pick up languages by being around other people, you would call that person a genius. You would say that that person literally has a genius level intellect. So we have to be careful, and I know it's really easy to do that, to say this person's being childish or this person's acting like a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old or a 5-year-old, but actually it's feeding this prejudgment, this system of prejudice against children as a whole that doesn't actually line up with or link up with the reality of children as individuals and as beings. And maybe we try to put everything into a box of conceptual understanding because we're somewhat uncomfortable with like not knowing or being in the unknown, especially when there's so much stimulation going on. Maybe it can be a little bit uncomfortable to be in this state of not knowing. And so we create these systems of prejudice to make ourselves feel more comfortable, but then it actually can have a lot of negative consequences for the people that we care about. I can give you my number, but I'm not able to receive calls right now because the phone that I have WhatsApp on is live streaming. But you can ask your question here in the chat if you would like to. And when it comes to the gay pride parades, I think that I may have taken too strong of a stance, because clearly there's still a lot of unconscious or underlying prejudice against the gay agenda. Just as a white man talking with gay white men, gay other white men, it feels very important to convey the sensitivity of lust and the sensitivity of falling into the same norms of advocacy and protesting and ways of doing things that have been done up to now that may actually come from the structural underbelly of oppression that we're working to dismantle. My advice would be to not smoke weed. I watched a video on my YouTube Shorts feed yesterday or last night where there was a black woman that was high on cannabis. And the post was about, hey, are there any other mothers out there that like to get high on cannabis and then go and, go to the bouncy house with other mothers and their children and kind of bounce around and be high? And I'm sorry, but children need a lot more support than they're getting currently. And being high regularly is not good for families. It's not good for children generally, socially. And just like we kind of have normalized regular alcohol use, normalizing regular cannabis use is not a good kind of thing to do, especially when we're being responsible for children. And of course, Scroogle, this connects to the major issues of getting children addicted to sugar at a young age, because we want to find a way to disassociate them, to make them addicted, because they're too intense, they're too real, they're too full on, and challenging to our habit energies and our addictions. So we want to kind of give them their own addictions. And I think we have to know how to stop doing that. The highest ideal that we can work with, and I wonder about people's vocabulary nowadays. Does anybody else wonder about that? But what I mean to say is that criticizing others is not a good thing to do. And in a certain sense, I do apologize for criticizing that black woman high on cannabis, inviting other women to join her to be high on cannabis and, take care of their children or be with their children. because my perspective is that okay, we have to take care of our lives, but other than that, relax and enjoy and be peaceful. It seems like there's this compulsion to do something, to be someone, to almost make up things to have to do. And we should try to not get lost in that, making problems for ourselves and, being in this state of exhaustion mentally. I think that people really have to relax and release the whole body and mind, not just in terms of like a meditation, but in terms of their way of relating to the world, their way of relating to their lives. Dharma is not very accessible to most people, like verbal Dharma. And the real Dharma that's being shared here is a way of being and a way of openness to listening deeply and openness to sharing deeply. A monk quoted this teaching composed by a great master. Wo Lun, the monk, has ways and means to insulate the mind from all thoughts. When circumstances do not react on the mind, the Bodhi tree, the tree of awakening, the tree of freedom from suffering, will grow steadily. And then another monk shared this teaching. The master monk Hui Nang has no ways and means to insulate the mind from all thoughts. Circumstances often react on my mind, and I wonder, how can the Bodhi tree grow? It's also a kind of social study. Who created us? I have a question of my own. Who created who? Who created the notion of who? The meaning and the validity, of this word and this concept of who? Who created that? And then whatever answer comes up, well, who created those words that are coming together then as an explanation? Where did those words originate from? Where did they come from? Yeah. Who created the notion of God? What is God? Is God our ideas about God? Is God a combination of words and phrases? Is God important? Is God important to you? Is God important to me? And what does that word really mean? What does God really mean from our own experience rather than something that we've heard from someone else or something that's been passed down to us? And is there something inherently wrong with not knowing, not understanding? It's like being in your townhouse or apartment and being very worried that you don't know what the people next door are doing, or being very worried that you don't know what's going on in the Philippines currently. So mostly we don't know. We can see what's happening right now. We can hear what's happening right now. But beyond that, we don't know. And so to accept not knowing is to kind of broaden the mind, open the horizons of the mind, to let the mind spread out and go out beyond the kind of contracted state of knowing and understanding based on words and phrases for ourselves. Using a word like everything. What does everything mean to you? I am not this body. I am not even this mind. I am not this body. I am not even this mind. I am not this body. I am not even this mind. So, who here has some experience with Buddhism? If you don't have experience with Buddhism, what makes you curious about this live stream or this happening right now? Remember not to speak for others in this space. Kind of like fentanyl or heroin. A little bit of fentanyl goes a long way. Peace is like that. So a little bit of peace goes a long way. If you would like, and who wouldn't, to give yourself permission to have a little bit of peace, to be in a little bit of peace right here and now, then you can kind of ride that wave and just be in that way. It's just as easy to have anxiety or worry as it is to have peace. So you don't need some kind of special method or special thinking to be at peace right now. Just a little bit of willingness to step back and to be at peace and to enjoy that, to meet yourself there, to meet yourself in this willingness to be at peace. And then just sitting with that and just being with that. Not something special, not a technique or something like that. Peace is especially not something that we're seeking after. It's the pulling the rug out from this path to another place, this destination, this objective, this development. Adjusting to peace. Just sitting here and breathing and adjusting to peace. Welcome back. How was your meditation? Feel good? Feel peaceful? Okay, everybody doing okay? You better be. And please do reach out, leave comments, and yeah, breath of fresh air, huh? From when you watch the videos or you watch the live streams, because that really inspires me and impacts me a lot. And I hope that me going live regularly also inspires you and impacts you a lot. It's a wonderful way to support me in this work just by leaving a comment on a YouTube video and sharing your experience and your understanding and where you are and what's going on. Whatever it is, not a big deal. And you're welcome here. What we're emphasizing here at the Monk Life Meditation Institute is not a kind of contrived meditation practice where we try to meditate and try to have these experiences, but it's more of a trying of not trying. And these discussions and these space, the teachings here at the Monk Life Meditation Institute are really here to make non-contrived natural meditation take place, where you don't need instructions, you don't need guidance, you don't need a method necessarily. You just need to be willing to show up, or just show up and just give and just be, just listen, just share, and keeping it very simple. One of the reasons that I'm not always going to the Dharma books nowadays is because it's not accessible for people. Even the word Dharma is a mystery. And this is mysterious as it is. So then we're adding on these layers of contrivance and Buddhism. And I don't want to exclude anyone. And I don't want to give this wrong idea that somehow, you just sitting on your couch watching a live stream are now in a position where you have to go and study and look up terms to connect with what's being shared here and what's going on here. making space for questions. If anyone has a question they'd like to ask, or sharing their experience during the meditation. And there may be some truth in being afraid or being intimidated to make this more real or to take more responsibility, get more involved, because, I mean, that's a monastery, that's a temple, that's a meditation retreat. So maybe I should look at myself and how I say, well, you know, why aren't these people commenting or asking questions or sharing their experience? Well, it's too real. You know, why aren't we going off to join a meditation pilgrimage in India? Because it's too real. You know, it's too much. And if I can give too much, then I know that I'm going in the right direction. So thank you, everyone, so much for being here. May you be well, may you be happy, may you be peaceful, may you be free from suffering. And I hope that you'll stop by again sometime to the Monk Life Meditation Institute during our sessions together. Okay, take care, everyone.